A new week begins for LSU Fighting Tiger football.
Pressure comes, he unloads, and intercepted! Derek Stingley's got it in the end zone!
This is the Coach O Press Conference.
We look forward to seeing our guys today on Tell the Truth Monday, getting back to playing LSU style of football.
Coming up, Coach O sets the tone for this week. But first, from inside the Capital One studios on the campus of LSU, here is former Tiger Gordy Rush and the voice of your Fighting Tigers, Chris Blair.
Welcome in once again, Tiger fans, for the Coach O press conference here on this Monday. Tigers coming off a tough loss on the road in Lexington this past Saturday. They fall 42-21 to the now 6-0, number 11th ranked Kentucky Wildcats. Tigers now 3-3, 1-2 in SEC play. The road does not get easier. They do come back home this Saturday. They'll take on the Florida Gators, who are 4-2 overall, 2-2 in SEC play. Kickoff just after 11 a.m. inside Tiger Stadium. Once again, joining you, taking you to the bottom of the hour. Head coach Ed Orgeron will address the media, then take questions from the assembled group. And Gordy Rush, it was a tough night in the Commonwealth. Kentucky, pretty competent team, had a sellout crowd, back-to-back sellouts. In fact, they told me before the game, I asked some of the sports information people the last time Kentucky had back-to-back SEC sellouts, for that matter, back-to-back sellouts, period. And they didn't know. They said they're going to have to go grab the big book of records and go figure that out. But it was a hostile environment. Kentucky got off to a very quick start, 14-0. Just dominated at the line of scrimmage. That was something we talked about last week that you were concerned about, just simply because of the size they have, both on the offensive and defensive lines.
Yeah, look, looking back on this football game, you had a ball club in Kentucky that brought the momentum after a huge win against Florida back into this ball game, and then LSU let one get away against Auburn and came out, didn't come out clicking on all cylinders. And Kentucky was sharp. They got after LSU, forced the turnover, had a quick touchdown, and it snowballed from there. But, I think the big stat that the people are going to talk about, Chris, and it's disappointing, is that Kentucky rushed for 330 yards. Felt like Kentucky was going to be able to run. That's what they want to do. But 330 yards is a huge number, very disappointing.
I think it was a little surprising, again, for us, because last week, week before last, rather, in the loss to Auburn, I'm not comparing Auburn's rushing attack to Kentucky's. Again, I think the offensive line for Kentucky is the big difference there, just the sheer size alone and the experience they have up front. But LSU handled themselves against arguably one of the better backs in the SEC, in Tank Bigsby, although he wasn't the leading back in the SEC. That was Christopher Rodriguez Jr. going into last week. He continues to be that going into this week. 330 yards rushing out of a total of 475 offensively for Kentucky. And I guess this is the number that, beyond the 330, that jumps out to you. In the rushing attack, Chris Rodriguez, as I said, he's statistically the best in the SEC. 16 carries, 147 yards, did have a rushing score, averaged 9.2 yards per carry. Cavassier Smoke, the so-called backup running back, over 100 yards with 104 on the night, 8.7 yards per carry. In fact, Kentucky had 6 players run the football, 5 of those, Gordy, with over 5 yards per carry.
Yeah, it was more than Rodriguez. And look, LSU came out in the first quarter, and I thought they did a nice job with some run fits. There were a couple plays, 1 or 2 busted plays in which Kentucky had some explosive runs, but it was really in the second half. And LSU started wearing down. Then all of a sudden, Kentucky was able to run at will. The quarterback, I thought, played a really nice game. And the scheme was solid. Liam Cohen came over from the Los Angeles Rams, did a nice job of stretching LSU sideline to sideline. You saw a lot of jet sweep motion. They had some great athletes they could get the ball to in space. And the quarterback, at times, Levis was activated as a ball runner as well. Just a really good scheme. And I don't think anyone expected LSU to struggle like that against Kentucky, against defending the run.
Again, I think when you take a look at Kentucky this year and you want to realize or try to figure out why they have had the types of success they have, I think it's because of Will Levis. And it's not because of his dazzling numbers. We mentioned that as well last week. It's just that he manages this team. They happen to have a hulking offensive line. They happen to have the skilled players at running back. They got Wan'Dale Robinson, who led the way receiving the football on Saturday night. And Levis just does a good job of, especially on Saturday, did not turn the ball over, which they've had a tendency to do. He was 14 of 17, 145 yards. That's not going to knock you over. He had 3 touchdown passes, ran for 75, and had 2 rushing scores. That, to me, is the difference for this Kentucky team, the offensive line and a quarterback that just does what Liam Cohen wants him to do.
Yeah, so they're not a run-and-shoot football team. He's not going to throw for 300 yards and wow you that way, but what he does really well is he plays within the offense. He sells the run fake. The play-action pass is such a pivotal part of this attack with all the eye candy that Liam Cohen's given you, and there was 2 times I was really impressed. He was able to hit running backs on wheel routes, and he did such a great job on the run fake that the LSU secondary bit on the run fake, and the receiver was wide open for 2 touchdowns there. It's really a good fit. And then Levis brings that physicality at the quarterback position to an already physical Kentucky run game. He really is a good fit for what they're trying to do.
All right, let's talk about the Tigers. Quarterback Max Johnson, 22 of 38, threw for 261 yards, had 1 passing touchdown. It was a 41-yard pass to Malik Neighbors in the back of the end zone in the second half. There were a few throws underthrown, a few overthrown, and, of course, there were a couple of drops. So altogether, when you look at how LSU for the first week of the season so far had been able to run the ball successfully, tip of the cap to Ty Davis-Price. His season high, 147 yards, got his first 2 rushing touchdowns of the year, ran the ball well, but again, you got in such a big hole, especially early on that opening drive of the third quarter when they took the 21-0 lead, that you just didn't feel like the run game could bring you back. It could certainly set up the pass, but it wasn't going to bring you back. But overall, your thoughts on Max Johnson? The tough news is Kayshon Boutte, his 8-game touchdown receiving streak was broken. He did lead the team with 8 catches, 73 yards, but as we all saw, was carted off with an injury in the second half.
Yeah, we'll hear about that. Certainly, that looked like a serious injury, and hopefully we'll get an update here from Coach Orgeron. But LSU had struggled to run the football most of the season, ran for 26 yards against Auburn, and they did an incredible job against the best defense that they've played to date in Kentucky. Kentucky came in as the number 9 rated defense, I believe, in the country.
Yeah.
Max had, let's call it what it was. He had an off game. Had some open receivers. Didn't see a linebacker early in that first series. There was a looper, and he wasn't accounted for in the pass protection. That Square was able to come in and force the fumble. It was not his best game. And to your point, what happened in the second half, Kentucky knew that LSU had to throw the football, so they backed up and they dropped 8. And you have football's a numbers game. They're going to drop 8. You've got to run the football, and they did a nice job of doing that. It was too little, too late for LSU. But the one positive is this something that LSU can build on with the running game. You've got to be able to keep this going. LSU's 13th in the conference in front of Mississippi State in terms of team rushing. They need to continue to climb that chart a little bit.
It'll be interesting to hear from Coach Ed Orgeron, who again will join us as he does each and every week at the bottom of the hour, to talk about how they will try to build off that success and build off that success early in the matchup against Florida coming up this weekend. It is an early start at Tiger Stadium. Again, kickoff just after 11 o'clock. As the SEC East and SEC West get together, and it's one of the nastiest rivalries in those series, LSU and Florida. And don't forget to get your day started. You can bring some flavor, get you going on game day with Tabasco sauce. Go Tigers, go Tabasco, the official hot sauce of LSU athletics. Well, we'll put the Kentucky game behind us, and we'll look ahead and find out what Gordy knows about the Florida Gators before we hand it off to head coach Ed Orgeron. It's the Ed Orgeron press conference right here on the LSU Sports Radio Network.
Do you have Medicare and make less than $1,615 per month? Or do you have Medicare and Medicaid? You may be eligible for extra benefits you're not getting now, and you may be able to enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan from People's Health. Don't wait. If you enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan from People's Health today, your benefits may begin the first day of next month. Call 1-855-410-7761. That's 1-855-410-7761. People's Health, your Medicare health team.
Your team is on a 3-game winning streak, and you're convinced it's because you've worn your lucky football jersey and haven't taken it off. Not for work, a wedding, or even bathing. With Cox, you can actually wear it all season long because we give you game day coverage and content 24/7. So join us and dress accordingly.
Hey, Tiger fans, just say Fan Zone into your Contour voice remote and enhance your game day experience all week long. Play games, win prizes. Cox, we're LSU fans 24/7. LSU Tiger fans are gearing up with real Tigers apparel and merchandise from the official online store at lsushop.net. Get jerseys, sideline gear, polos, t-shirts, hats, official team merchandise from Nike, accessories, and much more. Over 3,600 products, all shipped right to your door. Head to the place real Tiger fans go for the selection only real Tiger fans get at lsushop.net.
It's time we all get back. It's time we all get back to more. More one-of-a-kind Saturdays. More rockin' jam-packed stadiums. More of what makes the mighty Southeastern Conference so much more. Team up with the SEC and learn more about the COVID-19 vaccination by going to getvaccineanswers.org. The SEC backs the vax because it's time we all get back to more. Go to getvaccineanswers.org. The SEC. It just means more.
Leading you up to this week's Coach O press conference. Here again are Gordy Rush and Chris Blair.
Announced earlier this morning, by the way, Florida and LSU meeting this weekend at 11 o'clock. Next weekend on the road, the Tigers head to Oxford. They'll take on Ole Miss. That will be the national game on CBS. Kickoff will come probably around 2:39, 2:40, possibly even 2:45, but officially it will be a 2:30 kickoff in Oxford, LSU, and Ole Miss next week. Gordy Rush, let's talk about the matchup, though, right in front of us, and that's the Florida Gators. As I mentioned, it's a pretty contentious rivalry. Has been for a long time, but certainly if you take a look at the last several games, just the way the games played out, that intense rivalry has built up quite a bit. And again, you look at LSU, 3-3 on the season, 1-2 in SEC play. Florida coming in 4-2, 2-2 in SEC play. I don't know that you got to motivate either team to play in this one, and I don't know if the records mean a whole lot. It's going to be a fist fight on Saturday.
And especially after last year in which LSU went into the swamp and beat Florida, and Florida stumbled to an 8-4 record, losing in the SEC championship to Alabama and then losing to really getting beaten badly by Oklahoma in the bowl game. So this was a year in which Florida was trying to rebound a little bit, got off to a good start, lost in a really exciting game at home against Alabama, 31-29. And then 2 weeks ago, they went up to Kentucky and lost 20-13, bounced back against Vanderbilt this week. This is a good Florida team that still has Georgia in 2 weeks from Saturday left in the cocktail party. They should win the rest of the games on their schedule after those. So this is a team that is going to be in contention in the eastern side if Georgia can stumble and they take care of business first and foremost. And then secondly, it's a team, Chris, that leads the SEC in rushing. 1,643 yards. That's what Dan wants to do. A lot of similarities, I think, in what Florida is doing and what Kentucky did last week. Mullen with more athletic quarterbacks than Emory Jones and Anthony Richardson, after losing Kyle Trask as his signal caller a year ago, has gone to some of the stuff he did at Mississippi State with Dak Prescott. Again, a lot of eye candy. He's going to make you guard sideline to sideline, and he's got a bunch of running backs that really get north and south well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a balanced attack, and, you look back at some of the successful years Dan had at Mississippi State and maybe didn't have the gunslinger quarterback. That's kind of what they relied on, and that's kind of the case this year with the Gators. 273 yards on the ground each game, 230 through the air. Pretty balanced attack. Again, utilizing both quarterbacks. Jones, the veteran, getting a little more time out there, but Dan's never been afraid of switching things up depending on what's happening on the field, the point in the game where he may go to the other guy, Richardson.
Yeah, well, Emory Jones played in 2019, you might recall, in that shootout here in Tiger Stadium as he replaced Trask a little bit. Jones, more athletic, very quick, can get to the edge, and then Anthony Richardson is his backup, 6'4", 239, big body quarterback. He's athletic, he can run, but obviously more of a physical runner. So they've got two different looks at quarterback. Both of them can run the football, and as we saw last week, you got to account for the quarterback in the run game. You can't allow these two guys to have the success Levis had for you. The quarterback doesn't need to rush for 75 yards on you.
Gators opened the season winning over Florida Atlantic. They beat South Florida. They beat Tennessee, and, of course, last week had no trouble with a very struggling Vanderbilt program. They won 42-0. They lost to Alabama. A little surprising game early. Had a chance to win that one. Fell short 31-29. Then, as you mentioned, lost to Kentucky for the first time in Lexington since the mid-'80s, 20-13. When you look at the two quarterbacks, and we've talked about it a little bit, Emory Jones completing 68% of his passes. He's thrown way more and has more attempts than Richardson. He's got 9 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. Yeah. Richardson completing 61% of his passes, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. So if you can force the Florida Gators to use these guys to throw the ball, there may be some opportunities on the back end of your defense, because if you don't, Jones and Richardson are the top 2 rushers for the Florida Gators. Not a running back, the 2 quarterbacks.
Oh, no. Jones is the top rusher for the Florida Gators, but you're exactly right. 7 interceptions and then 1 fumble. So that's 8 turnovers that Jones has accounted for in the season, and that doesn't make Dan Mullen really happy in an offense that he's trying to be really high percentage and run the football and some play action passes. This is not a vertical passing attack, and that's, I think, why you've seen both quarterbacks. Dan, defensively, LSU very familiar with Todd Grantham.
Yep.
Very aggressive. A year ago, he lost some people, and look, it was a COVID year. A lot of people, I think, struggled defensively. He returned 6 starters. Linebacking core is probably the strength of this team. Got both corners. Elam's a very good corner out there. It's going to be interesting to see what he does. A lot of people have rushed 3 and dropped 8 on this LSU attack, and LSU proved that they could run the football a little bit. So I'm interested to see the way that Grantham approaches this LSU offense.
Yeah, they've got veteran linebackers, and the linebackers and safeties. Their safeties, by the way, also very active, not only in the passing game but against the run. It's linebackers and safety that dot the top of total tackles for the Gators on the year. They've got 20 sacks, which is second in the SEC, only behind Georgia, who has 22. They've got 4 interceptions on the back end of that defense. And it's interesting because when you think about Todd Grantham, as you said, you think attack mode.
Yeah.
I got to believe early he's going to at least try to disguise a few things and bring a lot of pressure against LSU. But he's the typical guy, and this is a credit to him. He's going to try to make you guess. So it won't surprise me at all if even early in the game he shows it and then backs everybody up into coverage and see if he can get home with 3, maybe 4 guys.
I think everybody's with LSU, young at quarterback and having some of the problems they do on the offensive line. A lot of people have been playing a lot of games, as we call it, at the line of scrimmage. Look, I thought Kentucky was going to back off and drop 8, and they were very aggressive early. And they came out, forced a turnover, and jumped on top 14-0. That was, to me, one of those storylines in the game. Kentucky had from the momentum from jump, and LSU was playing from behind. But look, Grantham, times that LSU played him at Mississippi State when he was there with Mullen, and then he went up to Louisville, and the bowl game in which LSU played him has always been known for bringing a lot of exotic-looking blitzes. He plays a 4-3, and I expect more of the same out of him on Saturday morning. I hate saying that, Saturday morning in Tiger Stadium.
No doubt about it. There's going to be a lot of study needed this week for the offensive line, the offensive staff, to try to see some of those tendencies and some of those things that he tries to hide through their body of work through 6 games already this season. A lot of young players for LSU, and that's a good thing because they are contributing and have been contributing since the start of this season. It's easy for you and me and other media members and certainly fans to say this is a game where you don't need motivation. LSU hates Florida. Florida hates LSU. How big or how little is that when you got so many guys who are going to be playing in this game for the first time? Is it something that the veterans actually say, hey, look, we don't like the Gators, know that? Or do they have to experience it for themselves?
Well, it's Florida. I think there's a part of it you do have to experience it for yourself. But it is Florida, and you come to LSU to play in games like Florida. So I don't think that's an issue. I think the bigger thing, Chris, is I can tell you being a former player, being in that locker room, you and I, the fans, the media, have all week some downtime to go back and look at film and discuss it and what have you. As a former player, you get back Sunday, you're in meetings from 5 o'clock on, and you're back in that hamster wheel, and it goes so quick. I think the key for me is can Coach Orgeron and the staff get this team to take a step back and try to flush the second half of the Auburn game and last week at Kentucky and get them refocused to come out, play with the energy and, 4 quarters worth of football that you're going to need to beat Florida.
Again, I think one of the big things everybody's waiting to hear, obviously, is an injury update. We imagine that will be discussed. How much information we'll just have to wait and see. May not be all information in yet on the personnel for LSU who will be available coming up in a very important game against Florida, an early start at 11 o'clock. But again, you want to find out if you're going to have Kayshon Boutte back this week or certainly before the end of the year. We will now hand it off. Here is LSU head coach Ed Orgeron.
Good to see everybody. Tell the truth Monday. Here we go. Offense, improved rushing attack. We're really pleased with the running of Ty Davis, improved offensive line blocking. We put in some new stuff. We put in some new formations. JP's kept at it, stayed with the run game like we said we're going to, and we made some improvement there. Definitely on offense, we still need some work on third down and our pass protection. On defense, it was all about gap fits, about staying in our gap, playing with proper technique, putting ourselves in better position to adjust to some of the formations that we see. We're going to work on that today. Florida, Emory Jones is an outstanding quarterback. They're third in the country in rushing offense. I've known Dan for a long time. He's one of the best play callers I've been around. They got some talent. They got a good offensive line, good stable running backs, a lot of speed at wide receiver. On defense, we all know about their defense. Attacking defense, 16 points per game, led by Zachary Carter with 6 sacks. Any questions?
Hey, good afternoon, Coach. I was just curious, in your meetings yesterday with the coaching staff, kind of given the limitations of what your roster is and not being able to improve it at this point in time, what can you fix? What have you guys identified that this is something we can clearly focus on and improve upon as we go forward?
On defense, first of all, making sure that we adjust to the proper formation and we're in a great alignment and our eyes on the right keys. Number one. Number two is when they're in that proper alignment and key, that they played a gap that is supposed to. We're getting cut out of a gap that we knew they had a good run game going into the game. There was no question about that. We respected their offensive line, a good zone blocking team. We just got cut out of our gaps for the most part. Now we ran some blitzes. We had some misassignments. We weren't in our gaps. So those are all things that are fixable, plus tackling.
Hey, good afternoon. What's the status of Kayshon Boutte and Ali Gay now?
Yeah, they're not going to be available for this week for sure.
Hey, Coach Joe Garland, Gill, Fox State, New Orleans. I noticed that AD Scott Woodward's on the road with you, so on the home games on the field. Is he giving you any words of encouragement, advice in these tough times there for the Tigers?
Yeah, he's been great. He comes meet me every Sunday. He's here at every practice. Been very positive, been very encouraging every time I met with him.
Hey, Coach, obviously now without Kayshon being such a huge part of y'all's offense, who are you looking to kind of step up in that number one role, and kind of who do you think is going to stand out there among those freshmen?
It's not about number one role. It's about somebody coming up and making some plays. I think you saw Malik Neighbors do a lot of good things there. I'm looking for him to step up, Devontae Lee to step up in a bigger role, John Trey Kirkland to step up in a bigger role, Jeray Jenkins. I think all those guys just have to step up, not just one guy. Everybody has to step up.
Hey, Coach, this is Bree Andrews from LSU Tiger TV. We've seen a lot of great success from former running backs coming out of LSU, and I think a big bright side of the game last week was seeing Ty Davis-Price rush for 147 yards. So do you think not only Ty Davis-Price, but Corey Kiner, Armani Goodwin, Josh Williams, do you think that they have the ability to be a successful college quarterback and also be successful in the NFL?
No question. That's why I recruited them. I think they're all great players. They're all great young men. And I'm glad that we put them in position to have success. We block better. I thought Ty ran with an outstanding attitude. Corey and Armani are good freshmen, real good freshmen. And Trey Bradford, who's going to become eligible soon. I think all those guys are going to be great players.
Coach, through the first 3 weeks of the season, y'all were the defense was towards the top of the country in sacks and tackle for loss. The last couple of weeks, those numbers have dropped off a lot. What do you kind of attribute that to, and how do you look to improve that?
Well, I think it depends what kind of protection we're getting. It depends how we rushing our guys. Sometimes we got our scrambling quarterbacks, so we're not just going full tilt. We got to stay in our pass rush lane. I think it's a combination of both.
Hey, what's the status of Major Burns and Joe Evans this week? And at the same time, how concerning is it to just to be beat up defensively right now as you're going against the SEC's best rushing attack?
Yeah, well, Joe's going to be unavailable this week. Major Burns is unavailable this week. We get Glenn Logan back. I think that Glenn is going to be able to play this week. Glenn played a lot of games for us, so that's going to give us a boost inside.
Yeah, Ed, sorry to have you with the injury and questions, things like that. But Eli Ricks, is he going to be available this week?
As far as I know.
Okay, fair enough. And yeah, just kind of, with this gauntlet coming up, and then to Adam's question, when you're this injured and you're coming off a tough stretch, just how hard is that to kind of get the team going and whatnot?
Well, I don't think it's a problem. I think we're going to focus in today, Tell the Truth Monday. We're going to look at it, and we got Florida coming to town. We're going to be fired up to play Florida. Our guys are going to be fired up. We have a good week of practice.
Hey, Coach, obviously there's a lot of talk around the program with the lack of success that you've had this season.
Yeah.
How will you approach it with your players? I know block out the noise is something that you've used before, but will you specifically address the remaining 6 games in your job status with them?
No, not at all. No, that's for me to handle. And nobody's told me about my job status. So I'm having any discussion about it. As far as I know, I'm the head coach of the LSU Tigers today. That's all that matters.
Is that the best and only way you can approach it?
No, not really, man. You can go in there and I can read everything you guys could write. I can take about an hour and read all that stuff and then go tell them about it. But I don't listen to all that stuff. The best thing for me to do is be very positive, understand the expectation of LSU. I will say this and I will say it again. No one has to tell me about the LSU expectations. I know them. I was born with them, so I understand. This is not the LSU standard performance. I understand my job. I get it totally. I know exactly where I'm at, and I'm going to go to work as hard as I can today, and don't blink. I promise you, I will not blink for anyone.
Thanks, Ed.
Hey, Coach, Paul Boron from CST. I was wondering if this week leading up to the Florida game kind of feels like last year, where this is the game that can kind of change the feeling of everything within the program.
Yes, it could. And it could. Playing Florida, we just lost 2 big games in a row, and playing Florida obviously is a rivalry game for LSU. We're playing at home. They're a very good football team, and it's going to be a tremendous challenge. But, yes, I think they can put at least a little feel-good back in the program.
And, obviously this is Max's first full year as a starter. 6 games in, just kind of how would you evaluate what he's done? What has he done well? What does he kind of need to improve halfway through the year now?
Well, I think Max is an outstanding quarterback, outstanding young man. There's some things he's done very well. There's some things that he can improve on, is getting rid of the ball quicker. Maybe identifying some protections and getting them in the right protection at the right time. But overall, I think he's done a very good job.
Yeah, Ron Higgins, Tiger Rag. How did your last year at Ole Miss prepare you for when things don't go well like this to handle maybe better than it was handled at Ole Miss? How did that experience prepare you for when times are tough like this?
Yeah, you learn what not to do. I think that's the biggest thing is don't react. Go to work every day, big chest and big eyes, be positive. And I think the players got to feel that. And they feel that about me. They know it. And everybody knows what's going on. We don't need to talk about it. The focus is on beating Florida, and that's what we're going to do.
Thanks.
Hey, Coach, how was the morale of this team after these 2 losses, and how much of a fight is it to keep them motivated?
I think that when you get into the beginning, like today, it's the first time we see them. The coaches came in yesterday. Everybody was down a little bit, obviously. But it's a 24-hour rule. As well as we can, we're going to put it behind us. and look towards Florida. I think it helps that we play in Florida, a rivalry game. Guys going to get up to play in Florida, especially at home. And so I think after today it should be okay.
Hey, Coach. Steve Moulton, WZZN. Is there any update on Miles Brennan?
Yeah, I just talked to him. He was in my office before I came down here. Nothing new. He's progressing as expected. I don't know if he's going to be available before the Alabama game, that open week or not. That's the target date we had looked at. I don't know the status of that yet.
Hey, Coach, one other question, a little off topic here. I'm asking all the coaches, or a bunch of the coaches within the program, about their thoughts on the transfer portal and the positives and the negatives of it in your minds.
Well, I think that the graduate transfers have been excellent to us. We've done a good job of getting graduate transfers. The transfer portal can hurt you. Obviously, you don't want your players to leave. But sometimes you got to look at all the things that entail why a player left, and sometimes they're out of our control. And for that, we can't do anything about it.
But you briefly touched on Emory Jones. I was just curious, what kind of progress you've seen him make, this season as it's kind of gone along, and what are you expecting from their offense?
Yeah, well, one thing that Dan does, he knows exactly where to go against defense. I think he's an outstanding play caller. Emory's passing is very, very much improved this year. They want to run the football with him, but also the deep throws, also the wheel routes, the short passing game. I think his accuracy has improved and his confidence in running the offense.
Hey, Coach, good morning. In the past, you've talked about having to re-recruit your roster at the end of the year, and now we're hearing concerns about having to recruit your roster during the year. Other teams trying to poach players and this and that while you're still in the middle of the year. Is that something that's come up without naming schools?
Not that I know of. No one has told me about it, but sometimes I'm the last one to know.
How are you handling all this, Coach? I mean, I know, you talked about your job status a little bit and whatnot, but
hey, Jock, excuse me. Are you trying to get another quote for me?
No, sir.
You sure?
I'm just trying to do my job, Coach.
Good. Well, I'm going to do mine. I'm handling great. I said that before.
Thank you, Coach.
Hi, Coach. Leah Van, the Advocate. I was just wondering, you've had a lot of injuries this season. I'm wondering if you are curious as to what has contributed to the injury prevalence on this team, and does that impact the way you approach practice?
First of all, not a lot of injuries have occurred in practice. Some of them had. Most of them have been in game-time situations. So we got to look at it. I think that our training staff does a tremendous job of evaluating our guys. We've gotten guys back here a lot faster than we have in the previous year. So I think that the acceleration of the treatment and the guys getting better has worked. You don't want injuries, but you know what? It's part of football.
Hey, Coach, this is Josh Sidley with Louisiana Gridiron Football. It seems with the simplification of the playbook, you've kind of maybe handcuffed Max's reads with his second and third receiver and kind of pinpointed it, maybe zoomed in on just one receiver, his initial receiver, and tried to just get the ball to one receiver, pushing it downfield. Have you noticed that this year at all, or am I just blowing this thing out of proportion?
Well, what you're seeing, Josh, is him identifying coverages and us calling a blanket route. And according to coverages, whether it's one high or two high, the route combinations that are best against one high or two high, that's what he's going for right now. Instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4 across the field, that takes too long, and sometimes the protection is going down. Maybe that's what you're seeing. So if it is that, and I think it is that, what you're seeing, that's improvement.
Hey, Coach. So I just wanted to know, with all these injuries that we've had this past season, it's kind of completely out of everybody's control when someone gets injured. But what is the mindset of this team? Like the next man up, I know that was big last year when we had a lot of people out. So what is that mindset, and what is kind of like your game plan going into this week against Florida, such a powerhouse, both sides of the ball, one of the best rushing and best defensive teams we've faced. So what is kind of your game plan going into that, considering all the injuries?
Well, our offensive line is probably the healthiest it's been. So that's good. And our running backs are healthy, so that's good. On the defensive line, we got Mason Smith, who we can move back to end if Ali Gay can't play. And then we got Glenn Logan coming in. So Glenn hasn't played, but he started a lot of games for us. So that's going to bolster our defensive line a little bit. But that's a very good question that you have.
Obviously, Saturday was the first time Cam Wire was really kind of getting major snaps again. I guess just what did you notice him kind of opening some things up for that line?
I thought he did a very good job of blocking at the point of attack. We ran behind him. He did a tremendous job. He didn't give up any sacks. He had a good week of practice last week. Both him and Anthony Bradford are playing pretty good. So we're a little bit stronger at left tackle than we've been at the beginning of the season.
I got two questions. One is just kind of general. You can educate me on it. Wheels and screens, are they taking longer to develop, and that's why they're not getting called? Mm-hmm. And then secondly, I noticed Mason Smith, you really made it a point to coach Mason, coming off the field this past. Obviously, you see a lot of potential there. Is that just you trying to tap into that?
Yeah, I think Mason's going to be an All-American there. I think he's going to be a potential first-round draft choice. But, we had to move him back inside. And he was getting some different schemes that he hadn't played in a while. And, at defensive end, you're playing the tackle, you're playing the tight end. Now he's playing the guard and the tackle, and he's playing some combination blocks. And I could see some things that could help him out during the game. That's what I was helping him for.
And you mentioned just not like with Cam Wire on Ty's 30-yard run, like he and Ed were like pulling all the way across the formation. Is that some stuff that pulling linemen, sort of some new stuff that y'all have implemented recently?
Yeah, that's some of the stuff I talked about last week. We had some new plays. They're really not new plays. It's stuff that we haven't run, the gap plays, the counter schemes, the power schemes, the tackle pull schemes. I think that's going to help us. It creates different gaps for the defense, different gaps for them to fit, and we're going to continue to do that.
Just to follow on the wheels and screens, were you able to? Is that something that you see? Can you run it out of the offense you're running?
Yes, we can, and we should do a better job. For some reason, we haven't had screens. Screens haven't worked very well since I've been here, and I'm a defensive line coach. I'm always preaching running the screen. So, yes, we need to continue to work on it.
Coach, Steve Moulton, WZZN. Now that we're kind of on the back half of the season, this is usually where we see some young players who normally don't get to see some playing time. The 4-game rule, certainly, I know a big part of that. Are there some guys on the horizon that are maybe showing you that are deserving of playing time here in the second half of the season?
Yeah, we're going to see that, Steve. Obviously, we have not saved anybody for a redshirt year. We haven't even talked about it. We got a lot of young guys playing on special teams right now. We told them that's the way to make your break, get in special teams and do great, just like the great players before us, like Jamal Adams, Jarvis Landry, those guys were outstanding on special teams. So that's where we're using a lot of our true freshmen.
Ed, Scott Rabley with The Advocate. While you've been talking, there's been a report, at least on Twitter, that Kayshawn is out for the year. Are you not prepared to say that at this point? And also with Miles, when he does return, is it back to the same level of competition at quarterback that it was before the season, or Max has established himself and it's a backup starter kind of thing?
Yeah, Kayshawn will be out for the year, unavailable for the year. That's correct. I don't know with Miles. I don't know if Miles is going to be back. I really don't know if we're going to get him back at the open date like we thought we would. I'm kind of unsure of that. So we have to play by ear as he gets better. But I don't think he's going to be back at the open date. That's my gut. That's my gut feeling.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Coach. Thank you.
Are we done? Go Tigers.
Head coach Ed Orgeron talking about the game coming up against the Florida Gators this coming Saturday morning, Tiger Stadium kickoff at 11 o'clock. We'll take a quick break. We'll wrap up the Ed Orgeron press conference for this week on the LSU Sports Radio Network.
Support your LSU Tigers with Hancock Whitney, the official bank of LSU Athletics.
from game day to the offseason. Hancock Whitney LSU credit and debit cards are a big win for any Tiger fan. Want to get your paws on these cards? Well, apply online or visit HancockWhitney.com/LSU. Hancock Whitney Bank, member FDIC. All accounts subject to credit approval. Terms and conditions may apply.
Our Lady of the Lake, just like LSU, is anchored by deep roots put down almost a century ago. We share a singular vision to advance health, education, and research to serve the incredible people of Louisiana. Our partnership with LSU is inspired by our passions for knowledge and our commitments to our community and healthy Louisiana families. Together, there's nowhere we can't go. Our Lady of the Lake is proud to be the healthcare provider of LSU athletics.
Hey, Tiger fans, this is Chris Blair inviting you to become part of our LSU Athletics podcast world. For the very latest on the Tigers, whenever it's convenient for you, catch Cody Worsham and number 18, Jacob Hester, for the Hey Fighting Podcast, a look inside LSU football. Join me and hear from some of the great voices of college sports on Hearing Voices. Get up to speed on the Tigers' next opponent with LSU Recon, plus replays of the Ed Orgeron Show and many more. Find them all at lsusports.net/podcast, on the LSU Sports mobile app, and anywhere podcasts can be found. Subscribe today.
It's time we all get back. It's time we all get back to more. More one-of-a-kind Saturdays. More rockin' jam-packed stadiums. More of what makes the mighty Southeastern Conference so much more. Team up with the SEC and learn more about the COVID-19 vaccination by going to GetVaccineAnswers.org. The SEC backs the vax because it's time we all get back to more. Go to GetVaccineAnswers.org. The SEC. It just means more.
This is the Coach O Press Conference.
Wraps up the Coach O Press Conference for this week. Again, a reminder, LSU and Florida inside Tiger Stadium. Kickoff just after 11 a.m. on Saturday morning. Media had their chance to ask their questions. You'll get your chance on Wednesday. The Ed Orgeron Show live from TJ Ribs comes your way at 7 o'clock on Saturday. We'll get our broadcast day started at 9 a.m. with LSU Game Day, presented by CST. Hunt Palmer, Marlon Favorite, and the return of former Tiger Brandon Taylor will get the day started for us. Then Doug Morrow, Gordy Rush will join me inside Tiger Stadium for kickoff, Florida and LSU, just after 11 a.m. Thanks to Gordy Rush for stopping by. As always, thanks to you for tuning in, and we'll see you back here next week on the LSU Sports Radio Network.
This has been the Coach O Press Conference. For the very latest, follow LSU football on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, or log on to lsusports.net. Sports Radio Network, a division of LSU SP and Playfly Sports.